Oh, yeah, we got a minute.
In storm, Henry.
Say again?
In storm, Henry.
Storm. Not dark. You know. Well, yeah. When it's just a virtual video, it's easy to change things. Okay, Corn hasn't wanted your welcome song.
Okay, I can do that. And the words are out of order.
Hope so. Yeah, they are. Start, then I'll talk.
Okay.
Richard, can I have more mic, please? Can I have more? Good. Hello, there we are. Can you hear me, Richard? Good morning, everyone. Welcome this morning. We're going to do some singing and humming together. I invite you to remain seated for this time. And just to begin noticing your own breath. Take a deep breath in. Exhale. We'll be singing Voice Still and Small. You can find the words in the Gray Hymnal, number 391, or up on our brand new screens here. So we're just going to take some time to quiet our minds and listen to that voice within us. We're going to sing it once, we will hum once, and then we will sing it again.
Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing in storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still will remain, singing. Calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing. Voice still
Voice still and small.
Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing in storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still you remain, singing. My fears, quenching my tears, through all
welcome here again this morning.
You and breathe with you and hum with you this morning. Good morning, First Unitarian. My name is Reverend Kristen Psaki, and it's so good to be a guest preacher, guest minister with you all this morning. This was actually my very first church home. So this community, this church helped to form me, and it's so good to be back and see many familiar faces. A quick announcement before we kind of dive into our call to worship. I was told that there are still some tickets left for your auction musical concert. And so if you'd like to learn more about that, there's a table out in the back, and you can check that out after the service. Whomever you love, whatever you carry on your heart as you moved through the doors this morning, whether this is your first time or your 1,000th time, you are welcome here, just as you are. I call us to worship this morning with an adaptation of words by the Reverend Gretchen Haley. What if this hour on Sunday morning, made sacred by your presence, by our presence, what if church gets to be a great pause? A great pause between headlines and hurry. What if here nothing needs to make sense? For these few moments, no quick reactions required, no fully formed analysis needed, no sense of what to do next. For this time, you need only to remember your breath and your belonging on this blue-green globe, and know if most everything in your life feels like a mess, you are not wrong, and you are not alone. We come here to sort it out, to untangle together our grief and the gratitude, the birthdays and the beatitudes, the breaking points and the beginning again. We come to practice forgiveness and joy, and to reclaim humanity beyond hashtags and comment sections, to stumble and to struggle, to sing and to strive, to wake up ready and alive for this new day, this light and this life, which offers itself to us all as a gift. Come, let us worship together. And let us light our chalice. This is always the part, huh? Wait, and let's see. Hold on. Here we go. Good morning to our Zoom folks as well.
Success. Whoever you are, wherever you are this morning, you are welcome here. We invite you to turn to a neighbor and sing this song, these words to them. Please join us in singing our welcome song.
We are made, we are one. The light of the world is within you. Sacred and worthy is your soul. A place has been made for you.
We're thrilled this morning to welcome Barry Linden and Hannah Flood, our guest flautists. It's so fun to have a flute duo.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Erin Kenworthy, and I'm the Director of Religious Exploration here at First Unitarian. And in this moment, I'm going to welcome any children, youth, or adult who wants to move somewhere else in the sanctuary, move in your seat, sit on the floor, or come on up here so that you can be close for our time for all ages this morning. Go ahead, move around. You're welcome to do that. You don't have to be cemented in your chairs. When you hear some music and you want to stand up or you want to move, you can do that. All right, so in just a moment, we're going to sing our kids and our youth out to story time upstairs in our chapel. And I want to ask, have you ever been in our chapel? If you have, can you just indicate who's seen our chapel? Oh, good, like a lot of folks. If you haven't, please go up the stairs. They're around here in the community room, and take a peek in there after the service. Because we have this amazing stained glass window up there. It's my favorite thing in this whole building, besides all of you. And the next time you go up there, or the next time you see it, I encourage you to look for question marks, because they're everywhere in that window, which is really great, because Unitarian Universalists are encouraged to ask a lot of questions. Lots of questions. And in RE, we say that we are free to learn together, which is a shorter version of our fourth principle. We affirm and promote a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. For Unitarian Universalists, we have 8 principles that this congregation affirms, and this is the 4th one. So we search together and by ourselves, and in our classes, sometimes we have an anonymous question box. And participants can ask questions without anybody knowing who asked that question, because for some folks, it's easier to ask questions that way when people don't know that it was you asking a particular question. So I really like that, because as a child, I tried really hard not to ask questions. I didn't want teachers to think I wasn't listening, and sometimes I wasn't. Or I didn't want them to think I wasn't smart enough to understand what they were talking about, or that I didn't agree with something that they had said. And I knew that kids who asked a lot of questions also got a lot of negative attention, or people thought that they were annoying. So even when I had questions, I didn't feel encouraged to ask. And here, in this place, when I started coming here, I found out that we're encouraged to ask questions here, which was such a relief for me. And so a few times this summer, we've used the question box in RE, and I wanted to share some of the questions with you that have come up. Are you okay with that? Yeah? Okay. All right, ready? Who are other people I can ask questions at church? That's a good one. Do I have to answer it for you? Should I? You can ask me. You can ask Mike Moran, our minister, when he's here. You can ask another person that you're friends with. You can ask Rhonda, our church administrator, questions. You can ask Leah questions about music. You can ask anybody in this room a question. And what I love about this place, I think most people will say, I don't know the answer to that. Let me find somebody who can help you. Right? That's okay. You don't have to have all of the answers. And if somebody asks you a question, that's a gift that they're coming to you with. Next question, why do bad things happen? That is a big question. And I can't answer it all up here right now, but I'm willing to hold the question without answering it and maybe talk about it at another time. Next question, why can't Russia be nice to the Ukraine? Such a good question. I know I have my own answers, but other people in this room might have answers too. And so I don't want to fill the room just with my answer, but that's the one we could discuss another time. How long do baby birdies take to grow up? I don't know. Does anybody in here know how long it takes a baby birdie to grow up? Depends on the bird. Great question. We might need a more detailed question to come back into the question box for that one. But good question. When was this church made? Ooh, I know there are people on our archive committee who have answers to this. 151 years ago, that is accurate, yes. Last year. And this building was built in 1893. See, this is the great thing about Question Box with large groups of people. Other people have the answers sometimes that you need. Yeah? Thank you. Eddie and Sally helped us answer that one. That was great. What is your favorite summer dessert and why is it ice cream? I like that one too. And then another one was, how was your day? Those are all really good questions, yeah? Yeah, lots of things people are wondering when they come through the doors here. Teachers in our lives don't always receive questions well, and they don't always have all of the good answers or answers that resonate with us. And some folks in this room have learned some not entirely true or accurate info from teachers who didn't feel like they could say, I don't know. When I was a teacher, I found a book called Lies My Teacher Told Me. And the title really frustrated me because teachers shouldn't lie. Teachers don't lie. That's what I thought my whole life. Teachers don't lie. I'm going to be a teacher. I'm not going to lie. And it turns out that I learned a lot of things that were not entirely true, like Christopher Columbus discovered America. People were already living here when Christopher showed up. So that was something I learned and then had to unlearn. Also, put 2 spaces after punctuation at the end of a sentence. There's argument about this still. And the civil rights movement happened completely in 1968. You know, people teach things, sometimes they have bad information also, and they were taught incorrect things, and they just pass it on. But when you feel encouraged to ask questions, and you have a place where you can go to ask questions, and other people are also asking questions, then we can search together for truth and meaning that resonates with us and connects us to one another. And so please join me in singing our children out to RE, where we will ask questions, and I hope that you also get a chance to ask some questions this morning. Have a blessed week, y'all. Good to see you.
Please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 298 in the gray hymnal, Wake Now My Senses. We are singing verses 1, 2, 3, and 5. So 1, 2, 3, and 5.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limits and praise the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take driving their hardship to end. Wake now, my vision of ministry clear, brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
Morning, First Unitarian. I'm David Keller, your treasurer. Yes, it's that time. I'm a doctor. I'm a scientist. One of the things that's troubled me in the last couple of years is the lack of understanding about what science is. Science is not about the answers. It's about the questions. So imagine my surprise when this Catholic boy discovered a church where the question is valued more than the answer. Very exciting for me. In order for the lights to go on in our minds, we need to keep the lights on in the building. You see where I'm going there? Please give generously as the basket passes you by. Except for those of you who are visiting us for the first time, your presence is sufficient reward. For those of you who have the apps on your phone, use the app to donate. It's very nice, keeps track of what you've given, and it's quick and easy. And for those of you at home, if you can't find the app or the link in on your screen, go to our webpage and you can give there. Please give generously to support the good works of this questioning church.
Thank you for these gifts. Thank you for all the ways that you give to each other and that you give to this church. May your gifts be a blessing. One of the additional gifts of community of church is to have a space, a place, a people to share in your joys and your sorrows, to speak and name what is on your heart, and to receive, to widen your own heart as those sitting next to you share theirs. So we don't have any to say out loud this morning, but I want to invite you to practice with me doing this silently and with each other. Will you do that with me? Okay. So I invite you to maybe let your eyes close if that feels good. This is all an invitation, and take a deep breath. You might even put a hand on your heart if that feels good to you, whatever feels good for you. And just for a moment, I invite you to allow to sort of bubble up whatever you're carrying on your heart this morning. Maybe it's a joy, a celebration, a birth, a new job. Maybe it's something heavy, a sorrow, an ending, a diagnosis, a relationship in disrepair. Whatever it is, I invite you to just allow it to be here just for a breath. And on your next breath, inhaling, taking in a bunch of love into yourself, into your own system. And now on your next breath or two, I invite you to imagine that all these people sitting next to you on your left and your right to carry a joy or a sorrow or both, right? In the ways that all of these things tend to come together entangled in our lives. And so on your next breath, I invite you to again take in all this love. Take in love with your breath. This is love for you. And then on your exhale, send some love out to the people next to you for whatever it is that they carry. Just one more. Inhale and take in all this love for you, right into the very spots that you need it. And on your exhale, send some good love out to those next to you or even beyond these walls. And I invite you to stay in this place for a moment and join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Sometimes I think of prayer as a time to speak what is truly on my heart, to speak to love, capital L, and invite more of this love into my life and our lives. Spirit of love, remind each of us that our lives are sacred, exactly as they are. Not because of anything we did or will ever do, just because we are here, alive, hearts beating, breathing, trying. Remind us that this is enough. This learning to love and to be loved, this learning to see and be seen. In our fear for not having enough for rent and anything else. For our struggles with shame and not yet knowing how to love ourselves fully. For our pain, physically, in our bodies and in our hearts. Wash over all of our hardened spots. Move through like smooth water, cooling, refreshing, nourishing life. Thank you. Thank you to this earth that holds us, this earth mother, made of the very same water and stardust. Thank you. May it be so.
Thank you, Reverend Kristen. And thank you for requesting this song for our service, Rock Me, Divine Mother. We invite you to join in singing on the chorus as you feel comfortable.
Every morning, first thing, I try to put some distance between me and who I used to be. Every evening when day is done, I look back at how far I've come and close my eyes, and I lay down to dream. In my dreams, I am free. This world has no hold on me. In my dreams, she comforts me. She comforts me. Rock me in the arms of my divine mother. Divine mother, rock me now. Rock me in the arms of my divine mother. Divine mother, rock me now. There was a time not long ago, I thought all I had to know was what to do and what to say, how to act to get my way. Now there's nothing more I need than to feel her close to me. Nothing more I'll ever be than to feel her comfort me. Rock me in the arms of my divine mother. Divine mother, rock me now. Rock me in the arms of my divine mother. Divine mother, rock me now. Everybody. Rock me in the arms of my divine mother. Divine mother, rock me now. Rock me in the arms of my divine mother. Divine mother, rock me now.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So beautiful. I recently heard someone name that we're living in the Eremocene, or the age of loneliness. When I heard it, I was driving up the mountain road where I live on my way home. It was dusk. The road was quiet. And when I heard it, we're living in the Eremocene, the age of loneliness, I felt this resonance gently ring through my body. Yes, that's right, I thought. So much loneliness everywhere. So much disconnection. Not that it's the only way to capture these times we're in, but it's one way. And it names something true. It's one of the things that I love about church. Church is, or can be, an antidote to this age of loneliness. It can be a place of connection and belonging. Even right now, right, as we gather across platforms, some of us in this sanctuary, others of us in the sanctuary of our kitchens, and we've all paused our regular movements of our lives to move as one body, to connect for this one sacred hour. And for many people, across cultures and time, gathering in this way to pray, to sing, to share on intentional occasions included plant medicines. It included a sacred and intentional partnership with plants and fungi to expand consciousness beyond ordinary human perception in order to experience what is already here through the support of more than human life. We find this even in the roots of Christianity, believe it or not. A recent bestseller called The Immortality Key by Brian Muraresku explores the long-held theory that an earth-based religious community in ancient Greece that influenced Christianity centered around a group ritual involving a fungus known as ergot that grows on wheat and barley and which contains a chemical close to LSD. How about that? So scandalous. Murarescu's rigorous 10 years of research uncovered an archaeological study that discovered residues of this fungus in a ritualistic drinking vessel dated to this time at a shrine connected to this religious community. Right now, thousands of years later, in 2022, we are in the midst of what many have called a psychedelic renaissance. Have you all heard of this? Psychedelic renaissance, some of you? After 50 plus years of, I bet you've heard of this one, the war on drugs, yes. A new wave of research and clinical trials from well-funded and high-profile institutions are sharing paradigm-shifting findings. Researchers at Johns Hopkins have been studying the impact of single large-dose psilocybin. Psilocybin, right, being the psychedelic compound found in magic mushrooms. So researchers at Johns Hopkins have been studying single large-dose psilocybin journeys on those living with the existential distress of a terminal diagnosis. They report that a significant majority of its trial participants experienced considerable relief for up to 6 months after a single supported journey. Then there are the clinical trials studying the impacts of something called MDMA. MDMA-assisted therapy for those living with complex PTSD. Those who have tried, the folks in these trials, are people who have tried every other route available for them for their own healing. Veterans, survivors of devastating trauma. MDMA, right, being a synthetic psychedelic found in ecstasy, but used in its pure form in this context. And the results from these MDMA-assisted therapy trials aligning with one story I recently heard. Her name is Lori. Interviewed after her MDMA-assisted therapy experience, Lori shared that at first she was nervous. But by her side were 2 trained therapists who she had been working with for weeks and who companioned her for each of the 3 8-hour psychedelic journeys. After taking the medicine, right, she laid down in a quiet room. I imagine that she was surrounded by comforts, a soft couch and a blanket, inviting lighting, candles, intentional music, an eye covering to support her to go inside. And Lori came to this experience with an intention to turn toward an early childhood trauma that had shaped the rest of her life. She spoke her intention to the therapists who held this with her. It's where they tacked their collective ship for the journey. In the embrace of MDMA, Lori shares, I was able to find empathy for myself. I realized how much I was thinking this was my fault. Lori describes living with PTSD, as some of you might know intimately. She describes living with PTSD as an experience of feeling unsafe in most places, most of the time, almost no matter what. And for her, through the safe and intentional use of a psychedelic in a supportive and connected therapeutic relationship, she began to re-story her life. MDMA is a heart-opening medicine, sometimes referred to as an empathogen, allowing Lori to not just think about love and compassion, but to feel love and compassion as she turned toward her life, as she turned toward her difficult experiences, her story, and begin the journey of healing. Nothing was fixed or solved. She got to then begin anew. What a gift. Whether on NPR or CNN, or through maybe your own copy of Michael Pollan's most recent Netflix documentary, How to Change Your Mind, the book or the Netflix documentary, perhaps you've caught wind of the therapeutic impacts of psilocybin, MDMA, ketamine, and maybe even LSD or cannabis. I want to invite us to pause here and to take a moment to check in with yourself. Maybe even take a deep breath. And notice what is happening in your own experience right now, if it's available, as we talk about drugs. What do you notice? Maybe you're feeling curious, intrigued. Maybe you're even feeling a sense of aliveness you haven't felt in a while. Maybe you're feeling resistant or something else entirely. It's all welcome. The groundbreaking benefits of intentional psychedelic use or sacred medicine use, it's not the story most of us grew up in, right? It's certainly not the story that I grew up in. Born in the 1980s, I grew up with the public service announcements featuring a fried egg in a big cast iron skillet with the message, you're not subtle, right? Not subtle, with the message, your brain on drugs. Clearly left a mark for most of us. I hid my minimal cannabis use as a young adult, feeling the weight of shame around it, which even carried over to legal cannabis use as an adult. Somehow the shame lingering just below the surface that I never remember consenting to. Launched with vigor in the early 1970s, some of you may remember this quite vividly, with President Nixon at the helm, the war on drugs targeted Black and brown people and communities, even though psychoactive substances were being used in white communities at equal rates. The racialized drug war devastated families and communities. It led to mass incarceration, cost billions, and never worked. And not only didn't work, the war on drugs was never backed by scientific evidence, but a political agenda. In a 1994 interview with Harper's Magazine, John Ehrlichman, who was a high-ranking Nixon official, confessed this without hesitation. He says, "The Nixon White House had two enemies, the anti-war left and Black people. You understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or Black, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and Blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs?" he said. Of course we did. That one was hard for me to take in when I first heard it. So revealing, clarifying, affirming, yet also devastating. Today, in the wake of these shifting tides, psychedelic use is up across age groups. Whether it's a weekend ayahuasca retreat or microdosing mushrooms, maybe that's you. Maybe it's your child or your spouse. In any gathered community, it's here. And what I witness at the root of this reaching for plant medicines or psychoactive substances, perhaps what we might talk about as the spirit of the psychedelic renaissance, what I witness is a reaching for connection. A reaching for a felt sense of interconnection, of interdependence with all life, of a relationship with more than human life, a longing for a felt sense of belonging to life at the level of the heart, at the level of the body, and maybe even the spirit. A reaching for felt connection in this age of loneliness. We know this to be true, right? That we are connected, that you are, that I am interconnected, interdependent, that we belong to the web of life. It's part of the very ground of our faith. And yet it's one thing to know this with our minds, to believe in a thought, to believe in an idea. And it's another thing to feel it, to feel connected. When do you feel connected? Or when have you felt connected? Connected to yourself or to your spouse or a partner, your friends, or to the earth around you. Maybe it's a fleeting moment, a memory. Maybe it's hiking or biking, or maybe it's food, cooking for yourself or those you love. Maybe it's protesting or showing up on the side of love, gardening. Maybe it's when you're on your yoga mat or in meditation. Maybe not every time, but sometimes when you do these things, you feel that sense of connection. And maybe you don't have an answer because you feel the heavy and ever-present ache of disconnection from yourself, from others, from life. I hear you. We see you. You're not alone. And I want to be very clear about this. Intentionally journeying with psychedelics and plant medicines is not the only path toward this felt experience of connection. And it is part of the path for many, as has been the case for millennia. And psychedelics are not a magic pill. They're not a magic pill. Healing, whatever that means for you in your life, as many of you know, it takes hard work, right? Support, practice, therapy, commitment, community, integration, trying again and again and again. And I don't just mean healing from PTSD or even depression. I mean healing from individualism and shame, from capitalism, supremacy of all kinds, healing from loneliness. Psychedelics are not right for everyone, and they are not right at any point or every point in life. Partnering with psychedelics to support your healing and the healing of our communities requires intention. I am an affiliated community minister with the UU Church in Boulder. And my current community ministry is with a mindfulness-based psychedelic therapy clinic. I work as a psychedelic guide and explore the ancient yet emerging fields of psychedelic spiritual care and psychedelic chaplaincy. At the clinic, we only work with currently legal medicines, so right now that means ketamine and cannabis. But we also offer harm reduction support regardless of what medicine someone is using. And I'd like to offer just a little piece of that here with you this morning. If you or someone you love is considering or is already using psychedelics, here's a few simple things to start, in no way comprehensive. Set and setting. Have y'all ever heard that? Set and setting, getting a couple nods. Choosing to take LSD, mushrooms, or cannabis at a party or a concert will be different. from creating a sacred space in your home with a candle and a playlist and some eye shades. One route, as far as I'm concerned, one route is not inherently better than the other. They can both be done with intention and be quite meaningful. This is more to say that the setting matters. It just matters significantly, as does your mindset, your intention going into the journey, set and setting. One other thing is that safety matters. Get curious about safety, ethics, and accountability. If you are being led by someone who identifies as a psychedelic guide or a shamanic practitioner, know your medicine. Get to know the medicine you will be using, its history, its makeup, your dose. Each day in this work, I live in growing reverence to the ancient wisdom of plants. They are our oldest teachers, after all, and the indigenous cultures that preserved many of these medicines and these practices through generations of violence and colonialism. One of my hopes, as psychedelic therapy continues to grow, there's a ballot initiative, y'all, in Colorado on the ballot in November. One of my hopes as psychedelic therapy continues to grow is that we as people of faith and conscience get more and more engaged in this conversation and movement. The church, after all, has always been in the work of healing. And Unitarian Universalists, we've been faithfully showing up on the side of love and justice for generations. There is a need and an opening now for progressive religious voices to bring equity, justice, and love to this quickly emerging space of psychedelic therapy. We can start by asking questions like, how do people without wealth also get access to psychedelic therapy? What does indigenous reciprocity look like, right? To return resources to indigenous communities today and on their terms, where many of these now labeled therapeutic practices and substances originate. How do we build in complex systems of reparations for Black, brown, and indigenous people as psychedelics become legal and psychedelic therapy gets officially defined? I'm sitting in the questions. I hope you join me. My hope also is this so-called psychedelic renaissance, in this so-called psychedelic renaissance, is that we make room for spirit. That we get curious about the relationship between spiritual experiences and mental health. And by spiritual experience, all I mean is that felt sense of profound connection, right? When connection moves from here to here, that's what I mean by spiritual experience. And I hope we get curious about the life, the animating essence, some might even say the spirit of the more than human life that we are taking into our bodies. The spirit of the plant, the spirit of the fungi. It turns out that at the root of the word eremosine, eremos, it's actually ancient Greek and most often translates to wilderness. Yes, we might feel alone in the wilderness, but the truth is we're also surrounded by life, a complex and beautiful web of life of which we are a part. In this age of the wilderness, then, may we know and feel our interdependence with all life in our bones. May we offer gratitude to the more than human life in this wild terrain that invites us back into connection each day, the summer creek, the mountains, plants. And may this felt sense of connection remind us that we belong in this and to this pulsing wilderness, and that we are loved simply by the nature of this belonging and held by a greater love that holds all. Amen. May it be so.
accidentally placed in the soil, into the loving arms of benevolence unknown. Help me return to the mystery of, there must be a place at the mystery of, make me a home at the mystery of, it is where people, they have a way of not wanting, but the sun still shines on everything. I stumbled into a loving family. They challenge me, they give me peace and understanding. So I can return to the mystery of, and I am at home in the mystery of, I am in awe at the mystery of, it's where I
Would you please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing our closing affirmation? After that, please remain standing for our benediction.
Behind all our differences and beneath our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one, binds us forever together throughout all time, through life and death, and the space between the stars, throughout all time, through life and death, and the space between the stars.
May you leave this place knowing that you are connected, surrounded by intelligent life, eager to invite you back into belonging in this great web of all things. And may you be reminded this week in small and big ways that you are far from alone, but surrounded by wild life. Amen. Go in peace. May it be so.